With a salary of 2,000, you managed to save 20,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
In a year.
In a year.
Yeah, in a year.
Okay.
So technically, like out of 24, I saved 20 lah.
Oh, okay. What was that, like pure savings or investment?
Savings.
Pure
I
savings.
didn't invest back then.
Maybe we want to chat like from 2014, you started your blog. That was like 10 years back. Yeah, why did you decide to go into like finance related? Was 2014 like what was the theme of your blog anchoring on finance back then?
No, actually, I didn't even set out wanting to be a finance writer.
Right.
Yeah, like in 2014 when I started the blog, it was just because I got bored at work because I'm a writer at heart, right? And my childhood dream was to become an author. So I always wanted to write. And I explored jobs like maybe I'll go join SPH as a journalist, maybe I'll be a magazine writer, maybe I'll be a press release writer and all this kind of writing related work, But for various reasons, it didn't work out, usually because of like the pay and the outcome. So I didn't choose to go down that route. I went instead to corporate client servicing, a suit, where I realized that was actually my strong point as well. But then, because of that, the only writing I was writing was client emails and client proposals and client decks. So I got bored, right? I was like, I want to write stories. My then boyfriend, now husband, said like, then you write a blog. So then I didn't even know what to write. So I told him, write what? Like, at that era, all the bloggers were writing about like their outfit, their food, the places that they went to, their sponsored facials and plastic surgery and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's not me. I find like lifestyle content not really my thing. Yeah, and I repeat my outfits. I don't want to every day you see me still wearing the same thing, right? So or like not same day, but like the second week, for example, like, hey, didn't she just wear that outfit? I'm like, yeah, I rewear my outfit. What's wrong with them, right? So I didn't go down that route. Then he said, like, why don't you just write something that you have been talking about with your friends? Right? And that's very you. Yeah. And it just so happened at that point in time, I had just saved $20,000. And I was very proud of that achievement because I had a take-home pay of $2,000. So I felt like that was quite a feat, and all my friends were asking.
Corporate comms job.
In a suit job.
No, okay.
Yeah, it's a suit.
Right.
Yeah.
That was like how many years into like after graduation that you
cannot
working?
Say. Later I review my age. But that was in 2014.
Okay.
As a fairly fresh into the workforce adulting, less than 5 years in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
so
then you decided to start like just as an interest, right? As a
yeah. So actually I wrote that article because I had a lot of friends that I was due to catch up with. And they always ask me, like, how you save, right? Because I posted on my Facebook. Then a lot of people ask, Then after that, I was like, but no time to, or I'll chit chat in the group chat. Very happy about it. Then they were like, oh, want to meet up, want to know more. Then I'm like, I don't have time to meet everybody. I feel very bad. So I thought like, oh, when I write this article, then I just share to those friends. And then you just read how I did it, Yeah, so I just did
with
that.
a salary of 2,000, you managed to save 20,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
In a year.
In a year.
Yeah, in a year.
Okay.
So technically, like 24 out of 24, I saved 20 lah.
Oh, okay. What was that, like pure savings or investment?
Saving.
Pure savings.
I didn't invest back then.
And you only spent 4,000 for the whole year.
Technically, but also there was the other side to it, which was our teaching tuition.
I see.
So I can't remember how many kids I had in that year, but I think it was a very small handful, like maybe just 1, 2 or 3. Yeah, and tuition, sometimes you have whole seasons where you have no income because the kid is traveling, holiday, right? Or like exam season. So the pay rate also is not super high. I think tuition teachers these days earn more than what I did back then.
Right.
So the income from the tuition side helped to make up for any lack that I needed because I needed to still give my parents allowance. Yeah, and I needed to pay for quite a few bills. But technically, I was actually able to survive on 500 a month. Yeah.
Right, which is like 6,000 a year.
Correct.
Wow.
So the tuition part paid for the gap law. Not just 2,000 because I also had to give my parents allowance, right? And I had to pay for insurance. Yeah, so the tuition supplemented that gap.
Right. Why do you have that kind of like like once somebody steps into like the workforce and then they spend like 9 to 6 in the office, right? And why do you still want to like do more like with a side hustle like tuition? What was your mindset back then when you were That was like 10 years back.
Well, for me, I've been teaching tuition since I was 18. Yeah, my mom actually got me my first tuition job, which was to teach my younger cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember the money she keep, or I can't remember. So anyway, she would be the one collecting the money. Then whether she give me or not, I also don't remember. But I like teaching. Yeah, actually one of the jobs I also explored was to go and be a GP teacher in JC. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
GP
And at that time, there was
JC.
the demand because
Right.
not a lot of people can teach GP. A lot of math and science and kind of subjects, but for the arts and all, lesser. But then I was just too lazy to go NIE and convert, 1 year and everything. So you're like, sounds good. But I also don't want to wake up at like 5 a.m. to go school, sing national anthem. So I'm like, never mind.
Right.
Yeah, so I like teaching, and I thought like, hey, if I can teach tuition, and tuition is still, the per hour rate is very attractive. Right? It's just that I forgot to factor in, you may teach for 2 hours, but you 1 hour travel, 1 hour back. So technically, you have to divide by 4.
Right.
But I only saw the per hour. Like quite attractive for $50 to $70. Why not? Right? Versus my corporate job, the hourly rate is much lower. So I did it. I really like seeing my students grow. I think it's something that I've carried on even up till today, because like a lot of my readers always ask me like, Dawn, why do you teach for free?
Do you still teach now? Like,
yeah, not GP,
okay.
but now I teach like personal finance stuff for free, right? So like last week I actually ran, I taught a class of 3,000 online students about credit cards.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a lot of them couldn't believe that it was free. And I'm like, I like teaching. I've been teaching for free for very, very long. Yeah, since I started the blog, actually every year I will teach a workshop also for free.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I like teaching, and that translated over. But really, it was just like, since I like teaching and it gave me a little bit more money than what my job gave me, then why not? I didn't really see it as a hustle though. Yeah.
It's just sort of like interest and passion that grew over time.
Yeah, and I like my students.
Right. So you're
go
doing
and
like 3
bond.
things at one shot. I mean, writing, teaching tuition, and then of course your full-time work.
Yes, correct.
Okay. When did the tuition sort of like stopped, and like what was the decision back then?
The tuition stopped in 2022, so not too long ago. I think like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
I think 2 lah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason was because I was embarking on a new business. So time and energy, right? So I decided to give up.
Right.
Yeah. So what happened actually was that 2 years ago, I was very big size. I didn't lose my pregnancy weight.
Okay.
But I was very determined because I was taking up gigs in that state. So when my TV thing appears and my aunt and everyone are like, hey, 你上电视了, right? Then I see and like, I was cringing at myself.
Okay.
And when clients tag me on the Instagram videos and all, I was like, I was cringing, right? And I hated that. So I told myself, I must lose the weight since this is my last kid already. I'm really going to put my heart to it. So I did that, and then I tried various stuff. And one of the things I did was to use a supplement, which actually was forced. Yeah, I didn't even plan on it because like everyone else, I start on the diet and exercise route. Then I got injured.
Okay.
I think I overestimated myself. I did weights, right? I injured myself so badly down my entire spine that for 2 months I couldn't sleep properly and I couldn't exercise. Then I was like, no, but I was on the right track. How am I going to lose my weight if I cannot exercise for 2 months? I can't eat less already. So I tried out this supplement that my friend had been telling me about, and I took on and off since 2018. I tried that, and then like I actually wasn't intending to talk about it because I didn't want to be seen as endorsing a product. But I lost so much weight that my readers were asking me.
Right.
Then I was telling my husband, should I disclose? But also like it's not like this sponsor pay me to disclose also, Then but the moment I say, everybody's still gonna buy it, why, right? Because of all the things that I've been doing and saying no to over the last 10 years. So they know that when I actually take on something, it must be
works.
good.
Okay.
Yeah. So he said like, don't be so stupid. Then you in the name of transparency, at some point you're gonna have to say it, right? Then like, but then how? Then the sales will just go to, I don't get anything. So he said like, then why you let other people earn the sale? You should then start selling it. So it's a wholesale business model where we have to buy in stock. There's an MOQ. You buy in, then sell. So in order to do that, I was like, okay lah, how about I place more? I get just 30 boxes first. And I thought 30 because if cannot sell, then I also use for like, 2 years worth lah. So in order to have the time and energy to do that, I had to give up something.
Right.
So that was when I decided to give up tuition. And just nice, my kid was graduating already. So I was like, okay, this is the last one. I won't accept any more referrals. Like after this, I'll explore this business, and if it works out, it's great. If it doesn't, then I'll just go back to GP tuition again.
Wow. So like I mean, I'm amazed like the amount of things that you do. Like I mean, you have 2 children. At the same time, you just stopped tuition just 2 years ago. Even like with your pregnancy and all that, you're still like teaching tuition kids and all that. So how do you
some of them come to my house when I'm big and pregnant, you know. Right. And then I'll tell their parents, like, are you okay? Because the kids are older, right? They're JC kids, so they can travel. Yeah, so the parents will be like, yeah, it's okay for him or her to go to your house. So I had like a area in the house where they would come and then I would teach. Because otherwise I said like, I have no choice but to let it go if I have to travel there. Because my husband's not free to send me all the time. Yeah, it's very dangerous. I think it happened after I fell down the overhead bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pregnant the first time round. I was 20-something weeks. Then on the way to tuition, I fell down the overhead bridge. I rode down. So my husband was like, no more teaching. Then I was like, but my kids how? As a teacher, I cannot be so irresponsible. I must see them through to the exam, you know. Right. So that was when like I started changing it. Then every time I entered the 3rd trimester, the kids have to come to my house.
Wow. Was that okay? I mean, like rolling down. I mean, like what?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it worked out lah. No issue. But we had a very bad scare. The baby almost came out. The hospital told me that I was having contraction, could go into delivery. Then I'm like, but no baby in the whole Singapore has been born so early. So I, just freaking out. Then they showed me the NICU estimated cost. I'm like, how is there anyone going to be able to pay this bill? So yeah, a lot of, but in the end it worked out. The baby, I talked to the baby, don't come out, mommy no money to pay. So he stayed in, great, and now he's 6 years old, so fantastic. Right. I actually still have a scar. I don't know if you can see it.
No,
so there is a small scar here. It's colorless now, but this is from when I fell down the overhead bridge.
Wow. Okay, that must have been a scare. Okay, later I'll come back to ask you about like how do you balance your time, because I think probably like a lot of people, when they want to try certain kind of like a side hustle and all that, they are a little bit concerned about the time balance. Then at the same time, you're married, you're pregnant, then you have kids to juggle and all that. So let's come back to like 2014 until now. Has your focus always been on finance, like since then until now?
So after the first article went viral, the second, all the way until the 10th article, was just me responding to comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So like they would ask a question, then I'll be like, oh, that could be an article, and then I would write. Right. So for the next 10, it's really just like I was just responding on like what an author does, like get reader ideas, feedback. Right. I was just happy that people like reading my work too. So then unknowingly that just continued, and then after a few months I realized like, actually, I write everything is all finance. Yeah. Then my friends told me, I wanted to write about other things also, but my friends told me like I had a gift for translating finance into very easily understandable and accessible ways that they could not get from anyone else online, not even from like the traditional media, not even from magazines. So I thought like, oh, okay, then maybe I just continue. So after that, like a lot of my blog articles were like my own finance notebook, because as I was learning about insurance and investments, I would write the notes. So it was like the article was almost as if me writing for my younger clueless self. And that resonated with everyone, I guess. And then after you just get stuck in that lane already, and everyone just started classifying me as a finance writer. So I just stayed with that all the way.
Right. Maybe let's start with like we can use like seasons of age as a categorization. I believe like you have audiences of different age category, age groups and all that. What do you advise like somebody in their maybe like fresh grads, right? In their mid-20s or maybe like 23, 24 for that first 5 years after graduation? How should they plan for their personal finance?
So if the fresh grad has a student loan, then they should be clearing that first. Because student loan rates are not cheap and they compound. So clear that off first. And then after that, the next thing to do would be to build your emergency savings. And at the same time getting the insurance. Many fresh grads, I was reading this recent news article, people say the fresh grads were saying they either don't have insurance or they have and they want to cut because they think insurance is a waste of money. I feel you, because I was that clueless 20-something-year-old who felt the same way, right? And I still keep my 20-something-year-old written articles on the blog to remind myself and to show other people the foolishness of my ways as I matured over the years. So it's normal to think like that in the 20s, because you also know, right, last time we 20s, we feel invincible. Fall down also, never mind, can get up one. Then now we all fall down, oh no, got consequences. Right. Now we anyhow eat, got consequences on our cholesterol levels and our health and everything. So like, my advice really is focus on your clearing the debt and then building up your emergency savings and getting insured, at least for the bare minimum. Yeah.
Right. So coming back to the insurance part, what do you think is the reason that people want to cut off that insurance like when they just graduated? I mean, like, perhaps I still remember my uni days. In order to support some friends who just started like being a financial planner, maybe we'll just like buy some policies, right? Usually, what are the policies that people want to cut off? Is it like life insurance or investment linked insurance, and what kind of insurance do you think they should first go into? Like, is it health insurance and all that?
Which one to cut usually depends on which one you're paying the most for.
Which one do people usually cut like without thinking for the long term? Because when you're younger, there's like a lesser sort of like health check and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So what do you think what do you see are the trends that people usually will cut off?
I've seen varying ones. So some choose to cut their life or their term. Usually life, term not painful enough, the premiums are low, right? Some choose to cut their hospitalization plan, thinking that MediShield Life is then enough for them. Some others choose to cut their ILPs, which they bought to support a friend, and then later realize that it's very expensive every month, so I cut. So it really depends on what they bought in the first place, and that's where they will start cutting down from.
And what are the must-haves, like, do you think, for a fresh grad?
So I would think that basically, and I'm going to be writing an article on this soon in response to that news article. My view is that fresh grads should at least have either of these, the hospitalization, right? Because if you have any condition develop, you lose your chance. The underwriting is going to be so difficult already, and your odds of being hospitalized and having to pay for a condition or any related treatments are the highest odds, in my view, like highest and most expensive odds. So that should be the first. But whether they want to go for like the A-class ward or not is a personal preference. Yeah, to me, I always feel you don't need A-class lah. If you can tahan a bit of, like discomfort, don't need to be like aircon, suite, private, then you can go for like B class, not bad, right? Panel specialist, B is still really good coverage. But don't just rely on MediShield Life itself, because I find that inadequate in terms of how many people, the expectations of the treatments that they want, or the prioritization of certain treatments that may not fall under MediShield Life yet because maybe it's new, right? Or a bit more expensive, then you're going to be cutting off your options. And I don't think people should be making medical treatment decisions based on just financial cost. I hope people don't have to make that, but it's unfortunately a very real reality lah. So if you can outsource that to the insurers, why not? So that would be one of the first thing. That's the first plan that I got for myself as well.
Right.
Then the second one would be, of course, for those who are very like filial to their parents or they're the only child, I see that they tend to go to get a life plan, whether it is a whole life plan or a term life plan, because that gives their dependents something, right? I have to admit, I didn't get it because like I have a sibling. And I figured like if anything happened to me, since my pay was so low anyway, I don't have money to pay for term life insurance. My parents still have one more kid to support them. So I only much later on then I got my term insurance. But that's one. And then another one that I think is really worth considering would be the critical illness coverage. Right. That actually though is one of the most expensive.
Right. So basically is the health part to take care of it first.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned about speeding up the paying down of your student debt, right?
Yes.
So are there any strategies that you usually advise your audiences like on how to cut down the debt as fast as possible?
Hustle. Go and teach tuition. Because tuition really earns a lot of money and it's one of the easiest. But actually, I think the young adults of today have so much more options. For me, right, for instance, I have this uni kit that I pay 3 digits to just edit my videos. If I could earn 3 digits from just editing videos in uni, wow, I'll be very happy because I have to work for like 1 whole month of tuition, then I get 3 digits. Yeah, so I think kids these days have so much options, and with social media, it has opened up a whole world of opportunities. You can create content, you can create videos, and the truth is, many influencers and KOLs cannot manage everything by themselves, including me, right? So that's why like I will look out for people whom I can work with, and I'm happy to pay these young people. Some is like older stay-home moms. I want to give them a chance also. So I'm happy to pay their salaries to get some help. And it releases the burden and time resource on my end as well. So hustle first in the first few years, because once you cross that first few milestones, right, your life really is much set. Yeah.
Right. And are there any like sort of like seasons that you usually categorize like, and you usually advise like, you know, perhaps like maybe 20 to 25 is a certain season, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, like in the aspect of personal finance, how should one person look at this and how do we plan forward?
So I think in your 20s is when you set the foundations right. Yeah. Like everything that I did in my teens and 20s have made me who I am today. So example, right? When I was 18 to 22-ish, my family had, my mom got retrenched during the Asian financial crisis. We struggled with money. I saw her going around. Yeah. Right. And like, it felt painful to see her beg relatives to lend her money just so she could pay for the kids' stuff. So I told myself, like, seeing that, I was like, I don't want to be in a similar position. Yeah, I want to have that power. Okay. And then like the power of not having to rely on someone to lend me money. And then like after that, I also went through the same thing. I had to knock on people's doors and ask like if they could be the guarantor for my student loan for university. And no one agreed. I was like, I can't even get a single person to agree. All had various reasons. Sometimes their name was already locked into other loans and all. Some we just weren't that close, so they weren't so willing to, put a gamble on me. But again, getting that rejection was like, and then
you needed a surety, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like a guarantor for your student.
Yeah, correct.
How about your parents back then? Was it because of the financial crisis?
No, but there were various reasons why they couldn't buy guarantor. Okay. We only had one spot left, and my mom reserved it for my younger sibling. Okay, they were like, bias, 偏心, am I not your daughter? But I mean, on hindsight, I think it was good because it forced me to go and knock on these doors and face the rejections, right? So when I went to university then, so I got a scholarship, so happy ending, didn't have to pay. But when I went to uni, then I realized a lot of people were traveling overseas for exchange. Again, my family had no money to pay to send me there, but I really wanted the experience for myself. So I hustled. Yeah, the first 1 year of my uni, I still remember, I had to keep up my GPA because I think it was like a 4 or 4 point something out of 5. Otherwise, I would lose my scholarship. Yeah, and I taught 9 students.
Wow.
Yeah.
During uni years?
Yeah, the first year.
Wow.
Adjusting uni life, teaching 9 students, running the whole Singapore. I had students in Tampines, in Woodlands, in Jurong, in Bishan. It was all over the place, Like Punggol also had. Well, really, like I traveled everywhere, yeah. So I was teaching that, and I guess that hardened me to the hustle culture. But it was all worth it when I could pay for my own exchange. But again, because when I went on exchange, unlike a lot of my other friends who were there on exchange with me, I didn't have what people call a papa mana scholarship. Which means if you run out of money, you just call home and say, Daddy, Mommy, I know money. Can you please put in like 5K into my account? I didn't have that. I only had option of, I had X dollars. I have to make sure my X dollar lasts all the way. Yeah, so it was very stressful. And then I got into, back then in the US, it was all the couponing. Yeah, so I got into the act of couponing, go and visit yard sales and all. And that also like ingrained in me the budgeting side of things. To really make sure I don't bust my budget was super important because it was really a case of if I bust my budget, either I have to like beg my friends to lend me money, which I wasn't sure if they would, or I would have to just like eat bread and water for the rest of my stay. Yeah, in fact, I almost came close to it. So I remember, I think it's like 2 months before I came back, I actually had a pretty deep conversation with my best friend, and she was very sweet. And her mom, I'm so thankful to her family, really. Like I was Skyping her, just catching up. Then I said like, hey, Cheryl, I am actually a bit worried that I'll run out of money. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm just wondering if it does, like, do you have savings that I can borrow? You can ask your mom. Just let me know. I'm trying not to, but just in case. Yeah. So her mom actually was in the background, and her mom came over and she said like, yeah, don't worry, like just enjoy. No, it was very reassuring, but at the same time I was like, I hope I don't have to use this. So all that budgeting skills in your 20s, I feel, is when it lays the foundation. My 20s was about hustling and keeping within a budget. So now that I'm in my 30s, okay, I don't have time to clock my expenses every day anymore. I don't have time like last time, 5 minutes every day tracking the expense tracker app. Nowadays, technology is even better, can automate for you, right? But I still don't have time to even review it regularly as I did last time. But because that has been so ingrained in me as a habit, right? Even when I don't track my expenses these days, I don't even bust my budget at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's still quite prudent, it's still quite frugal, and I only spend on like really necessary things. So that I think is really important. 20s, building the foundation. 30s is when I think it's really about us building for our future. So 30s for me was all about building the businesses, scaling, starting to scale. And then I don't know about the 40s. Actually, I want to ask you, what do you think is then the 40s
right
for personal finance?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I usually separate into like 4 spectrum. So I think, I mean, like I was just sharing my kids just last Sunday, drawing this like circular diagram, cutting into 4 pies. So I was sharing with them that your 0 to 25 basically is the time that you need to accumulate knowledge and skills, because these are things that people cannot take away from you. No matter what kind of changes that's happening in the market, or there's certain different seasons that happen to your life, these are things that you will continue to hold on to, right? And then with knowledge, you translate into skills. 25 to 40 or 50 is really like the phase that you're building. But this is of course the most difficult phase as well. Like you need to build a family, build a career, build a business, start to have kids, then you manage your expenses, your property and all that. But of course, I think this is also the phase that people grow their character.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, then it goes on to the autumn and the winter season. So I usually look at it at 4 pies. But I want to come back to the part that, which I think is very important. You mentioned about your 20s, right? How does it feel like you have to depend on yourself for everything? Because I think that perhaps also build your tenacity and your character, right? So how does it feel? I mean, like back then as a very young person studying, going for exchange, but it seems like you can only depend on yourself. Yeah. What was your mindset and your emotions back then?
Now, I'm thankful for it. But back then when I was going through, I was resentful. I resented and always questioned, why am I being born in this family? Why wasn't I born into a rich family where I don't have to worry about these things, right? And why is it that my friends have but I don't have? So it's a lot of like comparisons, which I learned now. Now in my 30s, I don't really make these comparisons because I realize we're all living different lives and we all have different battles. So I resented my parents for it in the beginning. But later on, actually, I was very thankful because if that didn't happen, there's no way I would be who I am today. Yeah, because they protected my younger sibling, right? And she didn't go through the lessons that forced that tenacity and a lot of other stuff. She had her own lessons experience at different stages instead. And I think that if my parents had sheltered me like how they sheltered her, like there would be no budget babe. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Do you talk about this in your articles, like your journey, and then of course like the lessons that you learned along the years?
Here and there. I try not to talk too much about my younger sibling though, because I don't know if, sometimes people say like don't air your dirty laundry in public. So I don't know how my family would feel if I talk too much about their story. So the only things I usually share would be the more like
the learning points.
Yeah, the learning points, or the fact that my mom got retrenched during the Asian financial crisis and she went around borrowing and she really just like, don't care about her face because it was all about survival and being able to pay for the kids. Yeah, she was a very like strong woman. Even though it was so painful and embarrassing, she's like, but my kids need their tuition, their food and everything. And she tried not to let it get to us. Yeah, and I thought that was very admirable. I think I learned a lot of the hustling thing from my mom as well. Yeah, because she was pursuing a certification while raising us. So when I came back, we are studying for exams, right? She would also be studying for her exam. Yeah, so that motivated me as well. Like, oh, mommy's also studying. So I complain about my exam, but mommy also have. And I think that really helped. I hope to be able to show this to my kids next time. So next time, right, when my kids are a bit older, they go through exam, I will also go and take a course that also has exam and study with them.
Right. Yeah. Mind if I ask, how old were your mom while she was being retrenched?
Wow, that's a great question.
Was that about 40? Or?
The AFC happened at
97,
97, right? So she was probably in her either late 30s or early 40s.
Do you get audiences writing into you to ask about like risk of retrenchment and what are your thoughts of it? Like
now, yes, because the tech layoffs have really impacted a lot of people.
I mean, like a lot of people are worried once they travel towards their 40s, right? And that's the time that they probably are in a corporate job, they earn the most, And if there's any job cuts, people want to cut and of course hire a couple of new fresh grads with the same amount of pay. What are your advice on that part? Like how do somebody safeguard towards that possibility?
So this is
like from 2030s, also safeguarding towards that possibility of retrenchment.
So I only have two advice. One is I think you need to think of what makes yourself irreplaceable, especially with AI. Yeah, and what makes one irreplaceable is always the blend of their skills and experiences. I think people don't realize this. They're always all about like one skill or like 3 or 4. They are talking about like being specialists, right? But actually, the generalists are the ones that have the most advantage. And it will be things that you never even knew would be beneficial until it happens much later on. I'll use myself as an example. I have background, I love teaching, as you know. I love writing. And when I learn, I need to simplify it for myself in order to be able to understand, because I cannot take it when there's a lot of terms, very chim terminology. I need to translate that to simpler stuff for myself. I also love to present and talk. I used to be an MC. I used to sing for my hall. I used to be in the drama club. I was the lead actress when I was in primary school. And then I used to work. I did my internship in an advertising firm. I have friends, because of the course that I did in university, I have friends in the media, traditional media, broadcast media. So a lot of these things, right, later on, it just came back. Right? Like people ask, for instance, yesterday I was featured on gov.sg. I don't know if you saw the Telegram or WhatsApp.
No, not yet.
Notification.
Yeah, right.
I was a bit shocked because I didn't expect it to go out there. They didn't tell me. I was like, oh my goodness, there's like 250,000 people on this Telegram who just saw my face and my kid's face. I did not realize that. So like, then some of my readers were asking me, how did you get featured? And I'm like, I don't know. Like the real story is just that they came to me. But what made them came to me? The opening email was that, our colleague recommended you. Who was that colleague? It was my ex-classmate. Yeah, and there were 2 colleagues in that team. One was my ex-uni mate. One was my ex-JC mate. So things just came together, right? And then like people asked me, how did you get invited to debate with Lawrence Wong and Heng Swee Keat on the finance, the budget, national budget? I was like, well, the producer called me and she was a dance friend from uni. Yeah, so
the dots connected.
Yeah, the dots connect. Then nowadays, last week I was teaching the free course, right, to 3,000 over students. And a lot of people were like, I can't believe you're teaching it for free. Why aren't you charging? Like, then I was just like, I love teaching. What can I say? Like, it would be nice to be paid for it. But I feel like this knowledge about credit cards is so basic, but a lot of people don't know, that I don't feel good accepting your money for me to teach you. Yeah, if anything, if you choose to take action, I can earn from affiliate fees. But even you don't choose to take action, or you already have all these things that I'm telling you about, I earn 0, it's okay, because I just like teaching. I like to see the impact and people change. And all this I realized actually comes together. Right? So if you told me back then when I was in my 20s, I would never have believed it, because I always thought like, I'll never be pretty enough for TV. I'll never be hot enough. I would never be confident enough. I'm not a good singer. I would never be a good MC, but everything just blends together and it got me to where I am today. Who knew? Right.
So it's like, that willingness to try different things, because you don't know when the dots will connect at the back. Right?
I read this quote that every child is a gift to the world, because you are a blend of your blend is what makes you unique. Yeah.
And just now when you were talking about the specialization and the generalists, so in PLB we talk about this concept of everybody working towards becoming a polymath. Yeah, polymath is in the sense that you first build a niche in a certain skill set deep enough, and then once you're deep enough, you start to flow to the left and right. Yeah, that is, of course, utilizing your talents as well, right? So for example, if let's say you are a video creative, and then how do you move on to the next one? It's like, okay, then you start to think about production. You start to think about graphics. How do you start to plan storyboards and stuff like that? So I think that's important, because there's so many things that will change as AI technology will change over time. What are your thoughts on like AI? Do you think that it will replace jobs a lot in Singapore?
It already has, isn't it? Yeah. And maybe I can share about my own fears towards AI. I'm a writer. AI can write. So I'll be one of the first to be replaced, right? And a lot of the jobs that have been laid off are the writers. Right? We saw the global media laying off writing teams. Now they have like from hundreds down to like 5 to just prompt the AI and just edit it. Right. Okay. So I had very big fear of losing all my writing. And I run this thing called what I call my Patreon, which is an exclusive stocks research community whereby every month, because I invest every month with my own money, right? I write a thesis on why I invest, what's the risk, what's the reward ratio, and all the different things. It's a very, very deep research article that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world.
You do it every month? Every
month, because I also need to invest my own money. So I need to meet my own criteria and standards, and that is me ticking off my own boxes. So my first thought when ChatGPT came out was, can ChatGPT write these articles there? And then nobody needs to pay me for these stock research reports, right? Nobody will be interested in my reports anymore because they will just go to ChatGPT and ask like, can you invest in Alphabet or not? That kind of stuff, right? And Alphabet is Google, for those of you who might not know. So I played around with it, and then it took me about like 6 months before I realized, and then people are starting to also realize, AI has limitations. Yeah, and it's really as good as the prompt engineer is, but beyond that, right, what AI does not have is the ability to connect the dots and get the insights and analyze and give an opinion on it. AI can give you the AI opinion, but there's a reason why, for instance, Warren Buffett's opinion counts more than someone else's opinion, right? And same thing, there's a reason why my readers value like the budget babe opinion on this stock versus another KOL who also does like finance, talks a lot about stocks, but they may not value his or her input on the stock as much. And I realized that's something that AI cannot take away. Right. So for anyone who's worried about AI out there right now, I mean, if you're in a line where AI can start to take over, like I was for writing, right? Think about what AI cannot do and focus on that. So I put even more focus on the analysis and evaluation part. And for fun fact, the JC kids will probably remember, this is what I used to nag at my GP students. I always say, in a GP essay, right, you have the structure is PEEEL, which is point. Then you elaborate on your point. Then you give the example to support the evidence. And then you give the evaluation, your take on it, or what's the bigger picture, the bigger insight, and then you link it back to your argument. Okay, very simple format. But I always say the EV, the last E, is the one that everyone struggles with. Every student comes to me, that's the only part that they struggle with. Everyone can do the other things.
That's your opinion, that's your insight.
Yeah, it's your insight. And that's the thing that I don't think AI can ever take away. Maybe it will in like 10 years' time, but in the meantime, that's something that will give us our edge.
What are your thoughts on like AI investing? Like, I'm using AI for investment, like those automated versions. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I think for AI execution on investing, it's okay. Because like, if you can program it and the mechanism is quite straightforward, it doesn't need to react. It doesn't need to have deeper insights. Then it's okay, right? One example would be people writing code to help them dollar cost average every month into the S&P 500. Quite straightforward. Okay, you don't even need an AI. Any bot also can do it for you. Then that's fine. But if you're looking at really selection or relying on AI to tell you the impact, no one can do that. Because no one has a crystal ball, much less AI, right? If you want to ask, for instance, Elon Musk always likes to talk, and then the moment he talks, sometimes the stock shoots up, sometimes it drops down, right? So if you want to ask AI like, Elon Musk just said this, I think the latest news was that he announced he's going to be spending, is it 300 billion on buying Nvidia chips? Okay, so like, what would be the impact on Nvidia stock price? Or what would be the impact on Tesla stock price or Tesla's profits? AI can't give you a clear-cut answer to that. Right. But that's where the edge in investing comes in, right? Or just like if in property, you ask AI, what's the new project? Lentoria, or what else is new in there?
Lentor Mansion and all that.
Okay, so if you just throw AI that name, right? AI can't even answer you whether it's a good project or not.
Yeah, I think local base is still quite tough, like in Singapore. So like, maybe we come back to the young person that maybe they're in their 20s, and let's say, for example, if they are drawing a salary of like maybe 4,000, 4,500 example, what is your strategy for budgeting? Like in terms of advice, like how much of that salary should go to investments, insurance, and then when we talk about investments, will it largely be stock investing? And like, what kind of strategy can this person adopt?
Okay, so there are frameworks in place and you'll find that online. But personally, I don't like.
Okay, why?
Yeah, because I find no framework will ever be able to account for the fact that you are a unique individual with your own unique circumstances. So I give you an example. One popular framework is the 50-30-20. 50% on your living expenses, 30% on your needs, your wants, like social, dating, clubbing or whatever floats your boat or your interest, and 20% on investing or
it's
saving.
It's like the envelope method or something like that.
Yeah, correct, right? But I've met so many people where it's not possible for them to stay within 50%. For instance, if you are you're the only child and your parents are also the only child. So now you are the only one supporting your grandparents. No insurance or more that era. How to save just 50%?
Yeah.
Or I have readers where they have many children. Yeah, I actually know of this mother who has 11 children.
Wow.
In this age.
Okay.
There's no way she will even be able to spend just 50% or 80% also. I think very hard. You know, they literally like no saving. So my advice always is take what you see online with a pinch of salt. The framework, if it doesn't work for you, don't be so stressed out, because at the end of the day, you need to first take care of your debts and living expenses. That's priority number one. Then priority number two is then how much of fun money do you need to stay sane? Mental wellness is important, because if you break down, that's even worse, right? So some people can do free things like just watch free YouTube videos, happy already. That's like their de-stress method. For me, it was reading books. Okay, but some others need to do actually something like go every week for spin classes, and spin classes not cheap. But no judgment there, because if that's what you need to stay sane, then go for it. So then you need to, that's priority number two, your own wellness, your own well-being, without going overboard, right? Then lastly, after you've taken care of all that, then it will be about building for your future. So that's where your emergency fund, your insurance, and your investments come in. Yeah, I think the young people usually have it the other way around. Especially we saw in the COVID era, right? Everyone just jump into crypto and meme stocks. Then I'm like, you clear your debt already? No, I'm waiting on this to like 10x so that I can clear my loan. That is very bad financial planning.
Right. Do you think crypto is risky?
It is. High risk, high returns. But high returns is real. The high risk also much, remember.
Right. Do you invest in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin?
I do, since I was in crypto even before crypto became very much mainstream here in Singapore and actually globally. So I started investing in crypto in 2016 or 2017. Back then, everyone was saying it's a scam. Back then, Bitcoin was less than 20,000. While today you're like 20,000 also. Everybody chung and buy, right? But back then, in my time and the investing community in crypto, right, we were all like, wow, 20,000 cannot, too high. Look at where we are.
Right. So you got it early.
I got it early, but I also have been averaging in over the years, so it fluctuates. But honestly, crypto is very fast moving and very high risk, high return.
Right. For somebody's like maybe before they reach 30, if let's say they are thinking about investment, right, what should be the allocation? Like what are your usual go-to strategy for 2024?
Whatever they have left.
Okay. And what should they go for? What should they invest in?
So, okay, it depends, because I think people always think of investing as just stocks. But the reality is you can also invest in yourself. I use insurance or property agents, for instance. Don't invest in buying a branded car to show off, or branded watches, branded bags. No, that's like the common conception. Then people always say like, yeah, I must make the client feel like I'm successful, then they will buy with me, where I'm like, no need. You can convince them with your sincerity and your skill set that you're working for their interest rather than for your branded things. You know, and sometimes there are some clients who are turned off by that. Yeah. Investing in yourself could mean, do you need to hire more people, for instance? Or maybe you are not good at video editing, but you think that you have a flair for teaching or explaining concepts. So you want to do TikTok, where the growth is. Maybe then invest some money in hiring someone who can edit your TikTok videos for you. Do your brand. Right. Yeah. So, or invest in a new skill. Yeah. So investing doesn't always have to be just in the financial markets, you know. It can be thought of in that way as well. And if we were to look at just the financial markets, I think most people should really start with what we call the circle of competence, which is what are you good at and reasonably can understand. So for many Singaporeans, it would really be Singapore companies, right? Then in this case, the Straits Times Index or your top few favorite Singapore companies would be a good place to start. But I know people don't like that because the performance haven't been as attractive as the US company. So actually learning from investing in US companies are also a great way because if let's say you are an Android user or an Apple user, you understand the business enough and you do enough research, that could be a stock that you might want to invest in. Or even the S&P 500. They don't even need to do stock selection. Right? So stuff like that I think is worth trying. But at the end of the day, the person also needs to find what they are, what makes them fulfill, what they're good at, and what can also make them money.
So how do you do your sort of like you mentioned that you write every month, and in terms of the things that you invest in, where do you get your knowledge, or how do you advise people to start towards this route, like really building their circle of competence, understanding about what they are going to invest before they really put their money into it? Where should they learn it from?
I think it starts from being curious. You must genuinely want to be interested in the company or the stock that you're looking at in order to understand how it works, why it could go up, and then finding what are reasons that it may not go up. So for me, I get my ideas from everywhere. When I first started, I was reading a lot of books, right? Books by the legends lah. I have this article on my blog called, if you Google SG Budget Babe recommended books, all the books that I read will come out there. Which I should update that because it's been a few years. I've read more books that aren't in there that I should put that in. But I read through every single one. Yeah, and my friends were like, "Huh, you really read all?" I'm like, "Yeah, I really read all because I don't know anything. So I need to learn from the experts, right?" So I learned that, and then I soon realized after that a lot of those books are global. They're not suitable for Singapore investors. So then where to get Singapore investors? So then I started seeking out Singapore investor books, but there's not a lot of them also, right? So the ones that had a lot of them, I think 80% I all read already. The others, I realized, were through courses. A lot of Singapore investment gurus or teachers teach courses. So I signed up for ones that were within my ability, my financial ability, because the reality is a lot of these courses are actually very expensive. Last time I also don't have SkillsFuture sponsored investment courses, so the market rates was like, my time, right, starting is 3 to 5K.
Right.
It was like more than my 1 month salary.
Are they mainly on like SG stocks and all that?
Singapore stocks, yeah.
Okay.
And some things also international lah. Yeah, so every provider is different. So I went for one that was thankfully just a few $100s. And I was so thankful where I was like, actually, when I went for the course, and it was so valuable, I asked them, why you charge so little? I think you should charge more. But I'm glad you charge so low so people like me can pay for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. So over the years, they have increased their prices bit by bit, but they're still very much affordable. So now that my way of giving back, right? When I hold my workshops or my courses also, my courses are the lifetime access one, I also keep it at 3 digit. Because I want to return it back to, if that did not exist, I wouldn't be who I am. Yeah, correct. So books, then courses, and then after that is learning from the market. You have to make some mistakes to learn that lah, right? And then also reading a lot. So I have subscribed to stock research subscriptions. Yeah. And that gave me an idea of how I can do my own as well. But more importantly, there are a lot of ideas that I get out of there. So over the years, that's what I call like the model essay route. In school, right? We learn from, there's a person who can learn from lectures. There's the person who can learn from tutorials only.
Right.
There's a person who don't even go to class, just read the 10-year series, model essays and practice and still get A.
Right.
Yeah, wow, that one is the most, like, everyone hates that student, but there are such people. Right. So people need to know what is their learning skill or the way out that they learn, right? And then go and seek out the stuff that helps them. So for me, I am the need all three.
So you compound everything.
Yes.
Then that's how you grow a thesis.
Yeah, so the lectures was like the books and the courses, and the tutorials. Don't have tutorials lah. Tutorial is practice in the market and lose money or make money, then you get the tutorial practice. And then the model essays was reading other people's, other companies like the Motley Fool, their stock research subscription and learning from there.
Right. So what is like your methodology when it comes to like stocks investing? Is it like value investing model, or you go for like high risk stocks, or you do both, or maybe you're more dividend play and all that?
I have all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like everything you combine.
I'm an opportunist.
Right.
Yeah. So I go where I see the opportunity. So I give you an example. When I first invested in DBS in the early 2010s, it was not because, and DBS now is like the highest dividend yielding company in my portfolio. Yeah.
You held that till today.
Yeah. And I added more.
Right.
Yeah. This year I added more as well. That's not a stock tip.
How much is the dividend now?
So the DBS pays me, if I'm not wrong, like 8 to 15%.
That's very high.
When people tell me when I tell people that, they don't believe me, but it's true, right? Well, how did that happen? It was not like I invested knowing that it would become like that. So what happened was, I'm sure you remember the oil crisis, right? What happened in DBS and all the banks?
I think the price dropped. Yeah.
Because everyone worried about the bad debts, right? The oil companies,
So
right? Have to wipe off. I pounced in. And there was a lot of fear back then. And even investors on online forums and my friends were all saying like, no, cannot touch. It's too risky. But I ran like the worst case scenario. And I was like, right, at the most, it would write out this amount. And then I think they're being too pessimistic. They can bounce back. So I did all that analysis, which AI cannot do, right? And I figured it's worth taking the risk. I am actually quite confident that the risk will not even materialize. Right. And as it turns out, the day after I bought, the CEO Piyush Gupta was reported on Straits Times for having bought also. So as a young 20-something, you are like, hey, that validates my decision, that helps, you know. So I held on over the years, and as DBS recovered and grew even stronger, they just kept upping their dividends. So that's how it got to here. But I initially saw it as an undervalued play. Yeah. Then as they grew, I realized that. So then if you go in as an undervalued, your exit would be when it reaches value or when it's overvalued, right? And DBS did hit those stages during this time. But I never sold because when they hit that, the dividend also went up. So I switched it from an undervalued play to a dividend play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you do a combination of things.
I will have to adapt, lor.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's where the opportunity is, right? Another example would be, I usually do not invest in loss-making companies. Yeah. But during COVID, these companies are very popular. Yeah. People just threw risk management out of the window entirely. So, there was this, loss-making company that I invested in because I could see the potential. I look at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, I don't like this loss-making part, but, a lot of the other things checked out. Yeah, so I invested and I made capital gains in that.
Right. Like what are some of the checklists that you always have in mind? Like maybe the top 3 things that you must check out before you put your money into it.
The company must be strong. So strong can be interpreted in many different ways. But I would look at what do they do? Is it sustainable? Like I would never invest in the dining industry. Yeah. So traditional media, unfortunately, I would not touch because we are all moving towards online and digital, right? But I will still invest in infrastructure. Okay. Yeah, old school industry, but it will never be replaced with technology. You still need the wires and the things. Yeah. Then, so company is the first thing. Then I would look at the management. They must either be good people, good leaders who can actually run a company. So I always say like the management are like my employees. I always say I employ Piyush Gupta.
Sounds a lot like you are adopting the value investing kind of model, really like looking at the business, thinking in the minds of like a business owner.
Yes, it's a business owner, correct. Right. I care a lot about the business and I love analysing and studying businesses.
Right. So the first is company, I mean like the industry they're in, the kind of products that the space that they're in. Second one is management. What will be your third one? The
third one then is whether there's a certain value or not. So that's where the valuations matter. If they're an undervalued play, maybe like they're worth, and there are many metrics to measure this, right? If it's like a property company, then maybe they have, let's say, 10 properties, and the property valuation is at 10x. This amount like X dollars, but it's only trading at like 70% of X dollars. Oh, then that one, why is that the case? Has it gone back to fair value? Is it all along always 70% or even less? So like Hong Kong now, a lot of the property stocks are like that. Because of the situation of the economy and the China issues. But again, have to weigh the risk, right? So that could be one way. Another way, if it's like a growth investment, then I would look at, in terms of the valuation, would be what is the growth opportunity? And are people being too optimistic? Yeah, like I felt, for example, I never invested in Tesla, but it's been on my watch list forever. And I admit I was very tempted because I also consume YouTube, right? So I know the rise of the YouTuber who made Tesla famous as well. His rise mirrored Tesla's rise during the pandemic. Very, very tempted. I have friends who also invest in Tesla, very passionate. But I could never get over that hurdle because like it failed the leadership. Yeah, Elon Musk too volatile already with his tweets. And it also failed the financials and the valuation part because I just couldn't get past how the money and the losses, the profit goes. And I felt like everyone was too optimistic that Tesla would be the EV leader. My view was that China can do better. Or anytime they pump money into it can be on par. And then like the mainstream traditional motor players are also not going to sit still. They're going to start poaching Tesla engineers and people to try and bring over this talent and try to build to compete, right? So I just couldn't get past that part. So I never invested. And thankfully, because Tesla crashed, right? It dropped quite a bit, not crashed, it dropped a lot. And that framework really saved me.
Right. So that 3 framework that you're talking about.
Yes.
And how much time do you spend like on a monthly basis to analyze stocks? Like because you, I think like you're very well read. You have different kind of platforms. Like how much time do you spend? And usually, how would you advise somebody that maybe they have saved up like their first 30,000, but they're very afraid to do anything with it? How should they start the approach on investing in stocks? So
for fear, right? People like to say use paper money. I say no, you must use real money because your emotions with real money versus paper money is very different. And investing is all about the psychological part of managing yourself as well. So I want 30K, I would say maybe why don't you test out with 5K? You think too little, then you go 10K lor. So you have 20K buffer. Yeah, then my older friends used to teach me, you have to pay tuition fees to the stock market someday anyway. How much you pay, you better incur the cost now when you're younger, so it's cheaper. It's a cheaper lesson. Then later on, in your 40s, 50s, the cost of your lesson will be like 100K loss. I'm like, oh yeah, true. So I was very aggressive in my 20s. And I obviously I lost money, but I have never lost 5 digits. Yeah, I have a lot of friends. No. I'm quite selective also. Okay. My criteria still have to stand.
Like your first 20,000, that time you mentioned you saved up. Then you start writing your blog. Do you put everything into investment?
That's a good question. Wow, actually I don't remember. I think I did, I think I put out the 20K, I allocated some to emergency fund. After that was done, then it was all in investment already.
How many percent was that? Like 75% or like?
I can't remember. I think maybe my emergency fund was maybe 5 or 7K somewhere there.
Right.
Yeah, and then
so
the rest
you're pretty aggressive.
I would say yeah, I was. Okay. Because I understood their wisdom. I have this thinking, right? I must learn from the older people. They got a lot of wisdom and life experiences. They know things that I don't even know I don't know. So the more I listen to them, the less mistakes I will make. Right. Yeah. So when they tell me things, I really, really listen.
Who are these like mentors in your life? Like
everyone. I would say everyone I meet, I always learn something from them, whether they are older or younger. But if they're older like you, right? I was asking you, how is it like in your 40s? Or how do you manage raising so many children? How do you balance? I have so much to learn from you in terms of how you balance your family, your children, while still homeschooling them, being still close with your wife while you pursue all this. All these are things that I will only know much later on. So I like to learn and have that curiosity so I can apply back to myself.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, but back to the question. Yeah, so you were saying
somebody with their first 30,000.
First 30, right?
Yeah. How do they start like stocks investing?
Okay, so my time is variable. I'll give 2 examples, the most extreme ends. There was this one stock I invested, I think last year. Quite simple. It's a retail REIT in Singapore. Okay. So my research was just, first is desktop, then just go to the shopping mall lor.
Okay, right? So you went to inspect the shopping mall.
Yeah, I go and see whether the traffic is really that good, and then I talk to the merchants, the shops when I go and buy something like that. Hey, how is business like? Is it the landlord keep upping your rent every year? How long have you been here? Now I'll talk to them. Do you feel like they got run events to help you draw shopper traffic, or they very like hands off? You need to own self do a lot of things. So I'll ask on the ground questions, right? And then I'll get a sense of how the real estate company is managing and running the business. And then that was like, I think just within one or 2 weeks, right? Like done. I could invest really. I could feel the confidence to invest.
Right.
But the longest one was this company called ASML. So if you guys know, ASML is very, very cheap. They're in the EUV, DUV industry, which basically is that multi-million, like 100 to 300 to 500 million machines to shoot the lights and the photons and all that kind of stuff to create the chips and to imprint it so that companies like NVIDIA, TSMC and everything can create all that stuff for the hardware. And they're the only company in the world that can do that. Wow, this is totally out of my zone. I never studied, I studied physics, but not to that end. Physics was
the chips business.
No, but even the calculations, the formula and the equation, they're all physics. And I hated physics was my weakest subject. So I was like, oh my goodness, it took me 6 whole months to even understand that first criteria company. What is this company's business? What exactly do they do? To be able to understand it well enough that I could go into an elevator and tell someone in 1 minute what this company does.
Why were you interested in this company in the first place? Like, what piqued your interest?
I had friends who were talking about it for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the stock price dropped quite a bit. So that triggered me to start looking at it more intensively.
And then you went on 6 months like deep study.
I didn't think it would take me 6 months, honestly. I thought too highly of myself. I was like, I'm quite smart. I think I can get it in 2-3 months lah. Oh boy, was I wrong, man. It took me so long.
Okay, and then eventually you went to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I made money obviously. It's paper because I'm not going to sell it. It's a monopoly. Why would I sell it, right? Especially with AI now, it made me so much money. Right. But yeah, that was very painful. I think that was the most time-consuming one that I had. Everything tends to fall within this spectrum, 2 weeks to 6 months.
So it seems to me that before you always invest your hard-earned money, you will always research.
Yes.
It's never based on hearsay. Yeah. It's always based on your own research.
The hearsay may trigger me to start researching. Yeah, so it's an idea.
Okay.
But I would never base on, Melvin gave me a tip, I go and buy now. Yeah, I know some people do that, but I wouldn't. Still need to like do the stuff myself. And in the stock research subscriptions that I'm on, like the Motley Fool, for example, right? If they are talking about a stock that they think can be bought now, then they also have the thesis. But my gripe is the thesis so short. My criteria is like that. Theirs is like that also can already. So I'm not satisfied. It's not enough for me to dare to put in the money. Yeah, correct. So I will still have to continue to fill up the rest of the gap myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you ever what will prompt you to sell a stock?
When the thesis change. So when the fundamentals are broken. One stock that I recently sold was this insurance company, Global. They are a reinsurer. Okay. So they're very strong. The management leader is being touted as like the Warren Buffett of Canada. Yeah, so sexy and attractive, right? And his track record really is very good in terms of the investment returns. The business is very solid, very few competitors, very strong. Financials also very strong. And I made a lot of money. I made like 2.5 times my money on it. Yeah, and my readers who saw that report that I did on it and also bought because they were on my Patreon, they also made together with me, right? But the reason why I sold and I decided to take profit was because there was a short seller report that came out a few months ago. And it questioned the management's honesty in a lot of the numbers. And it raised a question. If these accusations are true, what else could they have possibly lied about? And that just broke the whole thesis because everything that I was based on was this management being able to run it, that I can trust the numbers, the financials and everything when I'm calculating, it's all real, right? So I sold it. Yeah, I cannot trust that I sold. And of course, when that short seller report came out, the stock price dropped. So if I hadn't sold then, I think it took me about a week to decide, then I sold. If I hadn't sold then, fast forward to now, it's actually higher than what I sold it for. But who would have known, right? Because similar cases, look at Enron.
Oh, it rebounded lah.
Yeah, it rebounded a little bit lah. Yeah, then now it seems like no one cares about the short seller report anymore. But for me, I care. Yeah, and they haven't really countered the accusations in a satisfying enough manner for most investors. So for me, I'm out. I rather, wait until another opportunity comes in to enter again, or I just find another one that I can sleep well at night without worrying about these kind of things.
So if So that decision to sell was based on your 3 checklists, right? Like the soundness of the management, the product and stuff like that. Will you sell if it is in the rates?
No.
So even if, let's say, it broke your checklist, will you hold it?
Yes. And in fact, if it is in the rate, I buy more.
But if it broke the checklist, I mean, like, there's management issues.
No. If it broke the checklist, fundamentals change, and it's in the rate, means I'm on a loss, I will just take that loss. And I have done that. In my late 20s, I invested in oil and gas, without realizing it really is not in my circle of competence. And no matter how much I research, I just cannot understand and appreciate the industry well enough. Yeah. So I thought too highly of myself again. I bought, and I made a loss. I think it was like a $7,000 loss. Yeah, and I just took the hit. Yeah,
because
it was very painful.
That it's not sound anymore.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. But I figured, like, if there was this gap here, it's even more scary to not know what you don't know, right? So I figured, why am I doing this myself? I cannot sleep at night. Surely there are others that are much better. And thankfully I did. Because with the money I liquidated, at first I can say, right, wow, I kept harping on that 7,000, you know, like, 7,000 is like 3 months plus of my salary. I can bring my family on a vacation. Why was I so stupid? You know, I couldn't get over it. But the money that I released from that, plus my own savings, because every month I invest, right, I went into another company called iFast. And people just need to pull up the chart to see how the iFast growth has been since then. It's been a multi-bagger. Holding on to that company to try and wait until it turns the corner and recover would have been even more detrimental for me, because I made back the money from something else at a much faster pace. Yeah, and this is also an advice that I got from the older folks, right? They say, like, you don't have to make back your money on the same stock that you lost it on.
Right. How do you see, like, investing? Like, because you talk a lot about doing research, really having, like, a framework that works for you, and also balancing with, like, the psychology of how you view money, right? And plus the fact that I think you adopt a lot of, like, value investing strategy, but at the same time you also look at opportunities, and plus some dividend play and stuff like that. Maybe chat a little bit about what does money mean to you?
Two things. Money means control and independence. So not having to go around begging like my mom did, because it sucks a lot out of you, and it also spoils relationship, right? Some people, just because they don't lend you doesn't mean they don't love or care about you, but that relationship a bit affected already. Yeah, so not have to do that is one. The other thing then is, I feel money is an empowering tool, because it allows us to get access to things that we want, we need, and want. If not for the fact that we are at this stage now where 10 to 20 years of hard work, savings, and fundamentals have been laid, right? So now we're in a better place. But if not for this, one example, people, I don't know why online people hate on me, for my family, for buying a car, you know.
Okay, recently?
No, like, we bought, like, when my first kid was born, towards the tail end of my pregnancy, we bought it. I got a lot of haters, you know, and even today, people still comment on, like, my social media, say, she's not budget babe, she's premium babe, or she's lifestyle inflation babe, she bought a car, don't trust her advice. I'm like, what's wrong with buying a car? The car, right, was a very deliberate move, and it helped our family so much, because
you can buy time.
Yes, we bought time. And also it helped my husband to be able to do more in a shorter period of time, right? Because he's a real estate agent. Travel appointment, you also know there's a reason why many real estate agents have a car. The time is really very
it's being fair
important
to your customers.
Correct. And also at the same time, it helped our family so much. You know, not having to wait for a cab during Chinese New Year. Wow. When the kid is sick or immediately needs to go hospital, so many times we have driven to the A&E in the middle of the night without having to wait for a cab. Yeah, being able to do a lot more things that the car has helped us with has unlocked so much more opportunities. And people who just, like, focus on the cost of the car, now car not even expensive, right? Just the cost, and they're like, you're missing the whole big picture. So if not for money, we wouldn't be able to buy a car, because, like, previously we were all the public transport person, right? And if we kept to that, today a lot of things would be very different.
I think, like, a car as a mode of transport, if it is based on a necessity, and of course it also depends on, like, your season. I mean, if there's a need, your family starts to grow, you have young kids and all that. I mean, if it becomes a necessity, it will actually buy a lot of time. It will release a lot of mental stress as well. Yeah. And of course, like, I think it's also based on your profession. So for example, I mean, we always share with our guys that if you want to come into this industry, you need to work very hard in the initial phase to be able to own a second-hand car. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go for like a brand new car, just get a second-hand car if it's balanced 2 years. Because I think the concept is that it will be fair to your customers that trust you with their properties. And the customers trust you with their time. So basically, if you go and fetch them to view properties or you travel efficiently to their homes, to show homes, I mean, that is being responsible for your work. So I think car is really like, as a mode of transport, it really depends on the season in the person's life.
Correct.
Yeah. And
correct.
I mean, like the question that we're talking about back then, like, what does money mean to you, right? So you mentioned that money means like freedom as well, choices. And in terms of money as like, of course, money as base form is a mode of exchange. It is something that we exchange for time, we exchange for value. And how does that language, going back to your initial years that you have to depend everything on yourself, and now as you mature to be a mom, you start to realize that those things were actually blessings in disguise that's good for you, right? That also help you to build a career, help you to build your brand, and also help you to share and add value to younger people. And now being a mom, how has that changed in terms of the conversation on money? Like, now you have a family. How does that change and translate from a young person to a mother now?
So in terms of being much younger, right, it was first about saving, that spending on myself, what I wanted.
Okay.
And then after that, when I got together with my husband and we got married, it was more of like, what can we spend on for our honeymoon while still growing our retirement pot so we can retire and travel the world, so more aggressive kind of risk level. Then when the kids came along, it was very much risk management already. What is the downside? What if we're not around one day, right? What is going to be there to take care of them? So then the protection needs really came into play. I've never reviewed my insurance portfolio as often as I did was after becoming a mom versus all the years before, man. Yeah, so that was one thing that has changed. But in terms of what you were saying also on how my childhood relationship with money and how that carries on to now me being a mom, this is where my husband and I differ. So we've reached a consensus lah. But we took a few years to reach a consensus.
What is differing?
Because he never had that background. Money was not a big problem for him at all. He had a lot of access, and if he needed to borrow, there will be people who will lend it to him and his relatives. Yeah, right. So it was a very different concept versus mine. So his view is, and he was given a lot of things. So he wants to give our kids. He wants, for example, for each of our kids to have a property. I'm like, wow, Singapore property very expensive. That means I need to have what, 4 million. By the time we have enough to buy for both kids or more, 4 million, then we still need to buy our own. Well, how much must we have? 6 million? Wow, chore. So and then like university, how much? And he never paid for his schooling, but I paid through my own means, although scholarship lah, right? But I paid for my exchange, that was a real cost, right? So my view was that we should harden the kid also. Yeah, because letting them make these mistakes and learning these skills in their, like you say, 0 to 25, it will set them up for life later. But he want to be the protective parent, loving, giving parent. So in the end, we had a consensus lah. We say, okay lah, we will raise and harden them also, but we will also be their backup. Yeah, but their backup, how will that look like? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be $2 million properties for each of them. I don't think we can afford it. But maybe just thinking of how we can help them with their studies. So my view is that university degrees or even a master may not be as important in our kids' era versus what it was for our generation. Especially with AI. So we will probably be saving some money for the university, maybe not for all, but for some. And then we will give them the money to go and either start their own business or to pay for their university. But then the remaining few years, you need to find a way to do it yourself. I'll go and teach tuition. Easiest.
So you encourage them to take like side hustles, part-time jobs. And all that.
Yeah. I would say that is necessary because you do need to get like real world experience.
Right. Was that consensus hard to reach? Like,
it took us a few years to settle on it because you see we come from totally opposite ends. Yeah, but we saw the value of each other's point of view. So it took us a while to get to this middle ground.
So money for you now is a language of like protection, risk management.
I think it would still be independence and choices. Yeah, it would still boil down to these two.
How about like planning for like maybe your next 10 years, like moving on as your blog grows together with you? Like what do you think will the language of money change as you go into like 40s and all that?
I'm already starting to feel the change.
Okay.
It just happened actually. Which is,
what happened?
Now I start to see money as a tool for me to improve someone's life by hiring them. Yeah, so I have this...
like creation of jobs.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I mean, my business not so big yet. But you see, like that uni kid that I told you about, me being able to pay him. I mean, my friends did say like, hey, you crazy? You just hire a online one from Fiverr. $50 also have, $100 also have. I tried never say I never try budget babe, right? But I realized like the communication all not worth my mental stress there, right? The communication, too much time, too much communication breakdown, and then like the number of edits, it's like I just do myself right? So then I realized, okay, let me try a Singaporean. Then my friends were all saying, but Singapore very expensive. I say, never mind, let me try. So I tried and it took me a while. I did find a few good ones, some not so good also. But the ones that I kept, I don't mind paying them that money because like one is a mom. It goes towards paying her baby's milk powder. Another is a uni kid. I don't know what it goes towards. Maybe it goes towards his next holiday or maybe it goes towards his uni school fees, right? Another one is also another mom. It goes towards, actually she doesn't need the money, but I decided to pay her because I respect her time. And I felt it was unfair that she was volunteering to do so many things for me and she was not being paid. So I offered to pay. So basically, I now start to see money as being able to change someone else's life when I'm actually giving that paycheck. Yeah, while still not holding them down. Because at the same time, I also teach them don't rely on the paycheck. You need to also develop your skills. So the paycheck just allows me to buy their time to work for me while I mentor them on other things. Right. And I think that's like, I feel very happy spending this money. Yeah.
Actually, I think your mentoring part on them is like a blessing and a bonus. Because by the definition of work, it means that though you're buying their time and expertise, they're also exchanging value with you in the sense that they provide expertise to you. So it's like an inter-exchange of value. But definitely, I think because you are doing well, your business is doing well, you created value for your community. And through that, you're able to sort of like create jobs and bless other people as well. So I think the value exchange is like expanding. Yeah. So
not just a few jobs, but hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, like as your team grow bigger, you can sort of like create more jobs, bless more people and all that. Like maybe we talk a little bit about just on that retrenchment topic. Yeah. So you mentioned like the two things that are very important is really to build something in the form of like generalists, also having that skills and knowledge to really safeguard towards that possibility, right? How do somebody deal with retrenchment? I mean, like when it really happens, have you had that topic in your blog before? Like usually what's your advice? Like the advice previously that you mentioned was to safeguard, right? But if it really happens, like how should somebody really think about it or handle it on a real-time basis?
Yeah, the first is you got to figure out how to live your next few months or 1 year, whichever your time frame is, without money.
How many months do you usually advise people to budget just to prevent this from?
Usually, I recommend emergency funds to be 12 months. Some people say that's too much. But I always feel it's because you really don't know what's going to happen. And 12 months is 12 months living expenses. What if a major expense comes up? Those who don't have emergency savings, right? That's where they will all go to personal loan. Then you have to actually pay to have that money, right? Why not you have that buffer yourself instead? So first you need to come up with a plan with how to get over the next few months. Do you have enough savings? If you don't, then are there any side hustle jobs that you can take on to actually earn some money to survive? And we're very blessed today in Singapore society that there's just so many options. I mean, some people look down on being a delivery rider or a parcel rider or open up your house for Shopee drop-off. But all these are legit jobs that do not require, that have low barriers to entry, that can just help you survive for the next few months, right? So if you think about it, there will always be people with not enough time. If you are retrenched and you have time, you become their time. They will pay you for your time, right? So people can first start with that portion. Then after that, it's really about going back into work or going back into paid work. Do you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to go back into being an employee with the stability of a paycheck? If it is, then seek out advice. And the article that I wrote on my blog is thankfully sponsored by WSG a few years ago during the pandemic, and it gives actual resources that are being paid for by the government for people to go and seek help. Yeah, and then some people hate on it. Government one so not so good private better Private need to pay right? Their time is also not free. If the government is paying these people to come and help you, why not get that consult and then decide what you want to make out of the advice that you're given? So I would say go and make use of these government resources. You paid taxes last time. Now get something out of those tax money that you paid. Then from there, you get advice on how you can pivot. Sometimes these career experts can also link you up within their network to people who might be looking for folks like you. Yeah, and then from there, or if they don't have that connection or network, you go and build your own network with the tips that they teach you, such as on LinkedIn, on social media, and finally then restart. Yeah.
I think there are always like ways to be creative, like you mentioned, like Shopee kind of stuff, and of course delivery, just to tide over the period. I mean, even like for the context of real estate, I think like, for example, if you stay in like a 4-room flat or 5-room flat, you can also rent out rooms. Yeah, you can rent out 1 or 2 of the rooms and have your kids stay together with you in the master room and stuff, like just to tide over that period so that it's not so stressful, right? And do you believe in retirement?
Retirement.
Do you believe in the concept of retirement? And will you retire, or have you already set a retirement age?
So when I first started my blog, right, my tagline was retire at 45.
Okay.
Now I am in my 30s, so 45 not so far away anymore. But I started to realize one shift in my thinking is that last time I used to think retirement as I don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to go to the office, and I can just stay home and travel, spend time with my loved ones, read all the books I want in the world, etc. But now I'm in my 30s, I realize my perspective of work has completely shifted.
How has it shifted?
I actually like the work I'm doing now. Back then when I started the blog, I was in a job that I had a love-hate relationship with. Yeah, I was in advertising and events, right? So I liked doing it, but it was so mundane. And when I got scolded as like a newbie, I was like, so I had a lot of, it's really love-hate. But today, I think I'm at this phase of my career where my bosses and my colleagues respect me for what I do. They value what I do. They think I'm good at it, and I think I am good at it, but at the same time, I also have much to improve. But the culture is so much more respectful versus when I was this young, noob, ignorant 20. So I think anyone hiring 20-year-old people, like, please be nicer to them. They may be your interns, but they really, like, they are humans too, right? And how we treat them really has an impact, So now, like, I'm very cautious of that when I treat my team. Yeah, I want to make sure, like, they don't feel like I'm talking down to them, because I'm not. Right. And really like give them the respect that I felt I did not get when I was a younger working adult. So that would be one. So that's my day job. Yeah. Right. And my work on the blog Budget Babe, I have over the last 10 years of running this, I've seen the impact on my readers' life. People writing to me and say, Dawn, thank you for your blog. I had a debt of X dollars. And thanks to you, I came up with a plan. I got myself out of it. Or like mom saying, like, I thought I was forever reliant on my husband to earn money already. But now I am also a 女强人. I also can earn money because you taught me how to do it. Right? And I start to see these messages, or like my credit cards one. Then if people say like, yeah, I actually started reading your blog long ago, so I already know some of the hacks that you taught. And I claimed my first business class flight. And I flew my family. I had one reader tell me, I flew my parents to this country on business class flight that I did not pay a single cent for. And it's really thanks to using your hacks. I'm like, you know, that feeling I get, I'm like, wow, this is how it feels to positively impact people's lives. So my whole mindset has changed. Now I'm like, I want to be all about like living behind a legacy, touching more people's lives. So I don't think I don't think I can stop working already, yeah.
You'll continue.
Yeah, I will at least continue. Maybe at the corporate side, I may stop at some point because you will always be indispensable in the corporate area. There will always be someone who can be trained by you and take over. Right. Okay? But on the blog side, I don't think there will ever be another budget babe. Right? There will be other like budget babe like people maybe. The young folks are getting even savvier now. But it's again the blend. Right? There's no other.
The DNA.
Yeah, correct. The DNA.
Yeah, so your DNA will always belong to you.
Yeah, right? So maybe next time you all will see like maybe the way I teach will change. Maybe next time when I'm in my 60s and all white hair, then I'll be at all the community center talking to all the people in the town councils and stuff like that. Rather than
advice.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but I think I will continue doing it.
Right. Awesome. What are like your top 3 books that you recommend to people to read?
The first one would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Have you read that?
Yeah. Why that book?
What's your view?
What is your view?
I try to differ so I can finish eating. Mindset shift.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely, I think mindset shift. Yeah. It's about, I think like, I read that at a very young age. Like, I still remember maybe in army or something. My friend passed to me. I think it was like a shift that you can actually break through certain kind of paradigm shift. Yeah, that is probably like blocking your mind. Yeah, that you didn't even realize you can. There are things that you really don't know about. Yeah, so I think that was like a paradigm shift book. Yes. It's an old classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you select that to be your first?
Because I think that really is a mindset shift that you either learn because you're lucky enough to be around people who can teach you that, and if you're not, then learn it from the book. Yeah.
Right. Second book?
Okay, the second one is a title that I forgot.
Okay. What's that about?
But it's actually a book that I told myself I will reread every 2 to 3 years. Okay. I really can't remember the book, but the book concept is really about human behavior and certain things, why they keep repeating over and over again. Oh,
it's like human psychology stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I really can't remember. I wish I remembered the title, but one of the stories, for example, right, is why from a pricing point of view, right? Why when we see 3 different prices, we always go for the middle one. And why we know that is the trick, but yet we still fall for it anyway.
It's like a pricing psychology.
Yes. Yeah. So there are many lessons on that one. If any of you remember that book title, can you put it in the comment below? Or maybe in this episode I own self and comment But yeah, that was very powerful because I think it really helps me to understand human psychology, and it helps in investing. It helps in work, in business, and basically in friendships, everything that you do it will really,
how we make
really
decisions.
Help. Yeah.
The biases and all that.
Yes, correct. Correct. Yeah. And also like blind spots in each other's point of views.
Correct.
Many arguments happen because you cannot accept that the other person has a different point of view from yours, but you can agree to disagree. Because a lot of things are just opinion, and one's opinion will differ based on, again, their blend, their previous life experiences, right? You can say, for instance, taking risks in crypto is okay. But to someone whose dad committed suicide because he lost money in gambling, it's a hard no. Who are you to judge them for it? Yeah, so that would be one as a second book. The third one I would say is the classic. Oh, I also forgot. You definitely know this.
What is that?
There's something Win Over Friends one.
Oh, okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. That helped me a lot in my 20s because people won't believe this, but even though I'm an extrovert, I used to struggle with talking with people. Yeah, I do very well with like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, but the moment it's like a group, like networking event, and that was my first job, right? Why I struggle? I'll be like, I want to be the wallflower, just stay there, So that book helped me a lot because it gave like opening lines and conversation starters. Yeah, and from time to time, I keep going back to that.
Right. So when you, thanks for the 3 books recommendations. So when you look at where you are now, compared with some of your peers that are probably like your same age and stuff like that, do you think that because of the fact that you always need to teach and you need to write, like, has that accelerated your growth personally? Like in terms of your thought process, your opinions and stuff like that?
I think yes and no. Because, I mean, I try not to compare, right? But the reality is I feel a lot of my peers, we're all on a different journey, and some of them are really very successful. Yeah, I have a friend, for instance, a schoolmate, who is, I think he's the GM or the head already of a regional firm. Yeah, very impressive. And we all have just different talents. So I feel like my ability to write and read fast, absorb information, think critically, communicate that, present it for social media, that helps me in the path that I eventually went on. But someone else with a different skill set can still be very successful in another route. Yeah. Right. So it's not a competition. It's really just embracing.
Right. And I believe that you're enjoying this personal journey that you're on.
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky, honestly, because I've had setbacks in life, but nothing was like too detrimental. Nothing were things that I couldn't overcome. Although, on hindsight, as in back then when I was going through it, it always felt like it was the end of the world.
Right. Awesome. Okay. We have come to the final part, which is our PLB Candor card. So this is a deck of like 100 cards that's being designed by our entire team. So every teammate came up with a question, and then we built this entire deck. Oh. Yeah, because one of our core values is candor, using candor as a method to solve misunderstanding, going one-to-one, and then talking like through like certain misunderstandings that we had maybe in the meeting and stuff like that. Yeah, so we name it like the PLB Candor game, right? So maybe just want to play this with you. Select some questions randomly. All right, come take a pick, and then maybe read out a question for our audience.
Okay. What is your perspective on work-life balance?
Okay. Right. I want to ask you this. I forgot about that. Yeah. Like how do you balance your life?
This is so coincidental. I literally was just talking about it at the National Family Day Carnival over the weekend.
Right.
Yeah. You should bring your kids. So fun. But my perspective is that it will always be an act of trying. Yeah. It is possible to get it, but the best work-life balance happens when you truly enjoy your work. Then you will be able to balance your life, because you're not trying to build a life that you need to escape from work.
That is like, you're not trying to live for the weekends.
Yes.
Right. It's like that kind of like irky feeling that you have in your stomach on a Sunday night that you have to go back to work on
no Monday blues. And being okay with having to OT as and when, or even you want to OT, because you actually enjoy your work, or you enjoy the meaning and the value that it brings. So
you're saying that is an act of always trying.
Yes. Right. Because seasons come and go.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. One more question. Come.
I thought it was 3.
3. Okay, come.
Okay, let's choose a purple one now.
All right.
What title would you give this chapter in your life? Wow, that's a hard one, yeah.
If this chapter is like a book, or you're writing a book and then you need to name a chapter,
it would either be scaling from a business point of view, or be impact. Because I see more impact now than ever before.
Right. Awesome. Okay, great. Final question.
Can I take a blue one?
Okay.
PLB logo is blue, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll pick. In what ways does your current career align with your mission in this world? Budget Babe is where I teach and talk about personal finance. My mission, or my personal want for myself, is to leave behind a legacy for everyone else. So to live a life where people will actually miss me and remember the work that I did. And also to be a person that my kids are proud of to call their mom. And I think what I'm doing now with the blog, on Instagram and all this sharing, is definitely helping with that. I hope next time when my kids watch this podcast, they won't cringe, but they'll be proud of their mom and her answers.
I'm sure they will be.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming for our podcast. Really appreciate that. And of course, I think like your advice to our audiences, because our audiences has a wide varying age bandwidth, all the way from young people. Or just like, I think you were at the Sydney event as well, and then there were like poly kids that came up, and they were like watching our property videos in the poly age already, right? So all the way until like retirees watch our podcast as well. So I think your sharing on 20s, 30s, 40s and towards retirement really added a lot of value, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
For coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome.
So if I'm like that, can you hear? This is okay, yeah? Okay. If I'm like that, if I'm like that, it's very short.
Yeah, because this mic is a bit tall.
Very tall.
Yeah, you can pivot down.
Yeah, you're all tall, ma. So.